Okay, so we're going to make a column family in Revit using this column as a reference. So in Revit, we're going to start by creating a new file, family, column, and let's look at what the column family starts with. It starts with on the reference level, we have reference planes in left, right, front, back, with the width and depth value already assigned. And when we look at the front, we see that there's an upper and lower level. So this kind of works like a wall when you insert it into a project, where it's going to host on a reference level and then go up to another level or up to a certain height. So we'll look at the column itself. What we have is we'll have the two reference lines on the top and bottom, or the reference levels, and then we're going to probably create a reference plane for the thickness of the top and bottom as well. We'll create another reference plane for the height of this little detail. Then we'll probably have a reference plane going through the center, showing that we'll probably need for doing some geometry. And on top of that, we're going to have a diameter here. That's going to be our min diameter or small diameter. And then we'll have another one that's going to be our large diameter. We already have our width in here. So we're going to use the width and depth in here. It should be the width of this piece. And of course, it has its center plane going through here. And then for this detail, it looks like it has a little bit of a chamfer and then a straight edge. So basically, we'll be drawing a shape that is sort of like granted, it'll be a little more straighter, sort of like this, and then revolved around an axis here to create this little chamfer. And then this will meet up with the base of the curve as well. And then this point here will probably have its own midplane. So there may be another plane about right in the middle there for the top and bottom as well. So we're going to do a thickness top and bottom. This detail thickness, I'll make it the same for top and bottom. We have the overall width, small diameter, and the large diameter. So let's go ahead and start setting all this up. So remember, these are the two existing left and right planes that we'll use for the base, the top and bottom. And then I'm going to exaggerate things so I can track a little bit better and create a plane on the inside for the small diameter. And then two sets of planes on the outside for the large diameter. So this is important where you start really tracking what you're drawing. So we want to make the small one equal about the center, the large one equal about the center, and we'll add a dimension for the small diameter and a dimension for the large diameter. I'm going to go ahead and add my reference planes in for the top and bottom piece on the base. A plane for that little detail piece. And then we're going to do a center plane overall. So I'm going to center that up amongst the two innermost ones. There's the dimension for the top and bottom. It has two separate dimensions. So this will be our main controlling factor for this entire thing. Now let's start adding in parameters. So you have different ways of creating parameters. One thing we have to fix is the width and depth. We want to make them equal to each other because it'll always be square or round. So we want to make this width equal to its depth by simply saying at the end here where the equals is, we'll set the width or depth. So now when I adjust the width or depth, so I'll set 3, apply, it adjusts accordingly. I'll go back to 2, apply. Now I'm going to go in here and create these automatically because it automatically sets a couple parameters for me as I go. So this is my diameter large. So as we see here, the type is already set to length and discipline is already common. So I select the next dimension. Oops, I'm not unlocking it. Diameter small. And this will be the top thickness, the top one. And I'm going to make these two on either end of where the column will be the same value. So we're going to select that dimension and call it the detail. And this one, since we already have detail, we just set it to detail. And the bottom, oh, gotta make a new one. Bottom thickness. So now we have all the parameters we're going to need for this project by just simply analyzing what we're drawing and what we want to make. So to start, I am going to create the top and bottom squared cap ends. And I can do that all from the front. Carefully understanding that the outside is your large diameter, inside's the small. So basically, my cap is going to go between the second inner ones and then up to the bottom and tops of each one. So I'm going to create an extrude. And I can create both extrusions in the same set here. So I can go one rectangle, and I'm going to lock the bottom and top lines to the guidelines that are reference planes that are there. Lock the left and right as well. Do another rectangle. Lock the top and bottom. And left and right as well. Just undo that real quick here. So when I did that, I want to make a note here where that lock is. I don't know if you can see, we got a padlock and an unlocked padlock on top of each other. So when I hover over that, I'm making sure I have the gold padlock highlighted before I click it. So I don't want to unlock the other one. I want to lock this one that's unlocked right now, so it stays connected to that reference line when it moves. So there's our tops and bottoms, but it's only going to be 1 foot thick by default, according to what I see here. So if I go to my right plane and look, I'll see that it's not connected to the back plane. So I want to see if I modify the width and depth. I'm going to make it 2.5 feet. And I see the front's not connected either, so I'm going to align my reference plane. That's the reference, the front, lock it, back reference line, back, lock it. So now it will stay connected to it as you adjust and flex the design. Next, I'm going to do the curved column on the inside. So I'll go back to my front where all my planes are set up. So the intersection point here to here is going to be where it is. So don't draw this next step. I'll tell you when to start drawing. But stop here And I'll show you the problems with drawing curves in Revit first, so you have an understanding before you're using curves in future projects. So if I try to create a revolve, and I try to basically snap to my two endpoints and then the mid center plane here, continue drawing my shape, select my axis, pick my center, green check it. I see it revolved it. But if I try to flex this design, a large diameter, let's make it 3, apply. The plane's moved, the arc did not. It's really hard to get these arcs to do what you want sometimes. So we got to use some other method to create the actual geometry. I'm going to exit out of that, revolve. So we're going to use what's called reference lines, not the plane. So we're going to create a reference line from this point to the intersecting of the center plane to the bottom point. And then I can create an arc from end to end and to the center. These reference lines actually connect to the ends of other reference lines, and the ends of reference lines connect to the intersections of reference planes and stay connected much better. So now, if I flex this design, I see my arc changed, and so do these angled lines as well. So they both stay connected together as I adjust the large diameter. Now that I've got that, I'm going to create that revolve. I can start with the top, do 3 of the lines as normal drawing, but use the pick line command for the arc. So if I click the arc, and then don't click anything else, but make sure you select the padlock afterwards. It's very important that you lock the line with the padlock. If you don't, it still will not adjust correctly. So then we green check this, and we forgot the axis. So continue, click on axis, pick line, use your center line, and green check it. So now let's test it. 3 foot. I see it adjusted on both sides. So 3-6. So that is working as we want. And I'm going to make sure I do the base just to make sure that's working as intended. Apply, and it got wider on the top and bottom as well. Now let's do our detail here that'll connect from basically this point with an angled line, and I'm going to set it back 1 inch from this plane here. So let's do, again, create, let's do another reference plane between these 2 lines. And create an offset of 1 inch from one end. So, oops, that should be a reference plane. Create reference plane. Again, I'm going to use some reference lines to create the angle, because like I said, the angles usually do not follow very well. Same with the arc. So reference lines will follow the intersections of the reference planes much better. So I go and use my reference lines, and all I really have to worry about is this angled one. From here to here. Now again, let's flex it to make sure the angle works before I go any further. Do 4. Nope, still not doing. Let's cancel. Control Z. Let's put it back the way it was. So do from the newly created vertical reference plane to the plane representing the side of the tops and bottoms. Set that plane to 1 inch from the end. So let's try this again. 3, 6. The angled line is adjusting correctly. Let's try the small diameter as well. Let's make that 1. And the angle is still going with it. Okay, so that's working and functioning correctly. I'm going to hit OK on this. Now I can draw that revolve for that inner detail. So we can create another revolve. I'm going to start by picking the line, my reference line, and locking it. Make sure to lock it. And then continue drawing the rest of my line work. The other, just half of the revolve. Center axis is the center plane again. Green check, and it revolves it. And I need to do the same thing at the bottom. I'm going to bring this reference plane down. Actually, this reference plane needs to be centered between these two, so I did forget to add that. So we'll add that in now. So the center plane, or this one plane for the detail, should be equal distance. That again. Equal. And create another plane. Do the same thing at the bottom. Equal. We'll create that reference line again. Create reference line from this point to the intersection of these planes here. Create another revolve. Yep, missed a point. Pick line for this last angled one and lock it. Our center axis, green check, it revolves. Now let's give this all a test. So let's adjust the parameters. So the diameter is small, let's make it 2 feet. And it looks like it's adjusting correctly. The angles work. The detail thickness I can set to 4 inches. And that looks like it's adjusting correctly. Let's set the top thickness to also 4 and apply. Oh, we got something not working here. What happened here? So this top piece is not locked to the top for some reason. So let's drag it down to the top line and lock it. So mine did not stay locked. Let's try this again. top thickness. I'm going to go to 6 inches this time, get an adjustment. Now it's functioning correctly. The bottom is also functioning correctly. So everything else looks like it is working as I intended it to. Let's make the width of the tops 2 by 2. The large diameter 2-6. Small diameter 1-8. See what that looks like. There we go. So it's starting to look quite similar. Now if I look at it in the 3D, let's hide the lines. So we're getting a column that looks pretty close to what we would like. Let's also cover another thing about the materials and visibility of parameters, or elements. So that's kind of the basics of making this column. So I use the reference lines to aid in making angles and working with the arcs, as drawing them directly within the profile usually does not work. Squared lines works okay, but when it comes to angles and things, you will have problems. So you use the reference planes to create the intersections, you use the lines to make the actual angled parts, and then reference those lines within your profile and making sure to lock those reference lines onto the profile lines that you draw to the reference lines as you select them.